Good morning, everybody. It's good to have you along to today's session. As Taras mentioned, I am the M365 consultant here at CompanyNet. Worked with Microsoft Technologies for numerous moons, and I have a habit of waffling about technology that I'm passionate about, and security within M365 is one of those things. Today's session's part one of a kind of two-part series. Today we're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about the zero trust model. I'll go through the agenda in a second. And then next month we're going to pick up with tactics, where we'll drive a bit deeper into the things that we've discussed. Today what we tend to do with our webinars is we'll do a little bit of slides just to give you some background, some information. And then I'll break out and give you a bit of a demonstration about some of the elements that make up the kind of zero trust model, especially. So we can talk about strategy. So without further ado, let's step through the slides. So
sorry, Dave. Just to mention, if you have any questions, I forgot to mention this, do use the question and answer functionality, which you'll find within the Teams user interface there, and I'll ask them at the end. So we'll save them up for the end, but if at any point you have a question, do feel free to type it in.
Very important information. I love questions, so get some good questions in just when they come to you, and Taras will give them to me at the end of the session. Excellent. So let's step through the slides. So first and foremost, let's step through the agenda. So today's agenda is we're going to talk about, first and foremost, the M365 security strategy. So talk about the zero trust model, how important that is now, what it means. We'll talk about the individual elements that make up the model. We'll show you the model without showing you too much about the products and services that make up the model. And then we'll kind of step into probably a more common methodology here, or methods, is good, better, best, how that fits within M365. More importantly, how the licenses fit for good, better, best, which is quite important to understand. And then what you get with that as well, which is what we'll do. We'll step into a demonstration and we'll go through some of the kind of the big elements of that. We'll talk about regular assessment. Such an important thing when it comes to your security strategy. It's all about implementing this kind of baseline model, but then always continually assessing it. But we'll talk about that after we've done our demonstration. And then finally, the ongoing journey. So I hate using that journey word, but it does encapsulate exactly what I'm trying to get here. It's not just a set and forget. It's something that you need to continually kind of monitor, assess, and evolve with, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So let's step into the Microsoft 365 security strategy. So you heard me mention it at the kind of outset of today's session, the zero trust model. But what is it? I mean, hopefully you've seen it. You've kind of maybe trying to make changes to align with it. But it's just something that's really important because it's a change in the way that we approach security. And it's just great that we can adopt something within the Microsoft cloud that allows us to kind of do that. And one thing that I get asked all the time, which never gets tiring, of course, is it safe to put all of your eggs in one basket? With the Microsoft cloud. It used to be that was a complex question to answer. Partly yes, partly no. But now with a lot of the advancements with AI, with the way that security is changing, that the answer to that question changes. So it's all about ensuring that the tools that protect your organization, protect your users, protect your devices, that they have all of the functions that you require to make them still capable of collaborating and getting involved within the organization, so doing their kind of daily tasks. but also securing that kind of end-to-end kind of scenario to ensure that things are protected. And you'll see when I go through the slides, it's all about ensuring you that putting all your eggs in that one basket is no longer a problem because of all the functionality that the cloud is capable of. So let's have a look at the zero trust model and step through some of the main kind of key points of it. So the first one there is assume breach and verify each request as though it originates from an open network. Now it's really important. I mean, it used to be that a lot of security, a lot of policy implementation, a lot of purchases of services used to be based on reactive approach. Whereas things need to evolve into a more proactive approach. So instead of reacting to a breach when it occurs, instead we're assuming breach from the outset. So we're configuring policies, configuring anomalous behavior analytics in there, to make sure that we're always ready for that scenario to creep up on us. Which it has done with some of the customers that we've now got on board within CompanyNet and with a lot of other organisations out there. So it's all about getting those fundamental things in place from the outset. Never trust, always verify. I think this is something that's becoming quite normal now. Instead of trusting, third parties or trusting, guests within your organization. We're always doing that extra layer of kind of protection by verifying they are who they say they are, they're from where they say they are from, they are trying to do what they have been configured or allowed to do. And we're always making those verification checks throughout that entire kind of request or process. Authenticate, authorize, and encrypt every request. So this starts with very basic things like MFA, multi-factor authentication, through to more feature-rich IAM solutions, which I'll get onto a bit later and talk about how Microsoft fits into that. And then encryption as well. So ensuring that you're encrypting your requests, not just in transit, but as they're in rest as well. And I think it's something that the Microsoft Cloud Platform is very kind of big on, and it's something that's kind of important for the zero trust model as well, just to ensure that that is consistent across every request. And then minimizing lateral movements, so apply micro-segmentation and least privileged access principles, which will demonstrate a bit about some of the solutions that you can use in the Microsoft Cloud or in M365. But this is all about ensuring that once people get access to what they are trying to get access to, that you minimize them moving to other services, other locations, other areas, or kind of services and apps within your organization. To ensure that you're kind of stamping that out from the outset to kind of protect yourselves. And this is where IAM plays a really big part, and so does things like privileged identity management as well, which I'll demonstrate and I'll kind of talk about a bit later. So that's the kind of the key. Oh, in fact, sorry, one more. It would help if I knew my own slides, wouldn't it? But yeah, use rich intelligence and analytics to detect and respond to anomalies in real time. And if anyone's come to our security sessions before, they'll hear me wax lyrical about the anomalous detection capabilities of the Microsoft Cloud. It's all about building that baseline of your users, of your identities, of your devices, of your entities. And then, from that baseline that you've created, any changes to that or any anomalous behaviours to that baseline, you're going to be made aware of it by the lot of tools that kind of are provided by the Microsoft Cloud. So lots of really kind of good stuff there, and the analytics aspect as well. It's all about having all this kind of rich data that you can consume and use to better protect yourselves and to better kind of enrich your environment. So, we'll kind of talk about how kind of the Microsoft 365 Cloud fits into that. So that's the kind of definitely finished now. That's the elements of the zero trust model, or the kind of important factors. Let's take a look at the model now. So you can see here, we're talking, identities, we're talking, devices, we're talking cloud-fronted services, but then we're also talking about the underlying data, apps and infrastructure that lies behind that. So it's all about this new, perimeter that's not just your firewalls anymore. It's now, connected services like hybrid exchange or hybrid identity. It's covering or widening that perimeter to protect all of those entities across the board. So yeah, endpoints, identities is two kind of attack vectors that we'll talk about, and it's all about the importance of protecting those, and not just standard identities, but privileged identities as well. They are the most dangerous, so making sure that we're controlling the access to those, via roles, via privileged identity management or PAM, and ensuring that we're kind of protecting the kind of the more functions and abilities that those users tend to have. And then you see lots of kind of governance, compliance around the middle. And all the interconnections that you see here, we're looking at telemetry, we're looking at analytics, we're looking at assessments across all of these aspects to ensure that they all run smoothly. There's kind of no attacks happening. There's no potential attacks happening. And again, that plays into the whole anomalous behaviour that I talked about previously. But then it's all about, as I mentioned, just the internal network or the cloud network. So your Azure elements, your Azure Active Directory, maybe you've got VMs in Azure or you get VMs on premise. So just ensuring that you're protecting those services, but also protecting the data and everything else under that. So I mean, it's the model's evolved a lot over the last kind of 6 to 8 months, especially. There's another diagram which I don't have on the slides, but it's one that I definitely encourage you to have a look at, and that's the one that defines the different elements or applications or services from Microsoft that protect these individual elements or factor into this model, and it just gives you a bit more of a sight on what you need to make this model possible within your organisation. Excellent. So that's the zero trust model. Couple more points to factor out with this. So a clear security model that introduces control across attack vectors. So talking identity, talking endpoints, talking applications, all of that kind of stuff. Everything that surfaces or can be consumed by your identities and endpoints is a service that needs to be protected. And it's also could be an attack vector. So it's all about ensuring that you understand what your attack vectors are, and then you protect them with the tools that you have at your disposal. Protecting apps, data and infrastructure, not just at the perimeter. So obviously you have all of this data on premise or in the cloud, SharePoint Online, Teams data. It all needs to be protected. Maybe it needs to be classified, maybe it needs to be protected, maybe it needs to be encrypted. There's lots of things that we should factor into that kind of data model that will help us kind of build a more comprehensive kind of secure solution aligned with the zero trust model. So yeah, just classifying, labeling, encrypting. We'll talk about that during the demonstration, and IAM as well. So it's all about identity access management. And some of the tools I'll talk about today fit into that model. There's a numerous amount of IAM solutions out there. Currently, it's the new. Well, it's not the new thing. It's always been the thing, but it's now becoming more prominent in the kind of circles at the moment about implementing a proper IAM solution. And there are tools and services within the Microsoft 365 cloud that gives you that functionality and that ability to control it, which we'll talk about. So let's take it on to good, better, best, which is probably something that a lot of the audience today and organizations worldwide are aware of. It's all about ensuring that you're at least configured to offer good from a security perspective. That could be on premise. It could be things like ensuring that your Active Directory is not accessible externally, and things like that. When the cloud, we're talking about standards security solutions applied across the top. So applying sensitivity labels, from an information protection, data loss prevention policies to kind of protect you in that way as well. Lots of really kind of good things that you can do out of the box with kind of Microsoft 365. And then you've got better, which is then taking that up, applying more security solutions to it to ensure that you're layering your security products accurately and effectively to offer a more restricted and security kind of environment, but not restrictive with a collaboration or being able to do your kind of daily tasks as part of your role. And then best, it's kind of where you want to aim towards. Applying all the AI elements, the anomalous behavior, Defender for cloud apps. The list is endless. There's lots of things that you can do to make that better. But what we thought we would do is just break that down to be a bit more logical when it comes to licensing. So if we look at good, better, and best here, now it's all about building layers, unless people see at the end what you choose to opt for. But good always starts with something like Microsoft 365 E3, which gives you all of the out-of-the-box tools, which give you the capabilities of implementing some secure solutions, give you sensitivity labels, gives you data loss prevention, gives you alerting functionality within Defender. It gives you Microsoft Defender to be able to utilize that. Policies, exchange policies, to ensure that spam filtering, malware filtering is enabled. All of the standard stuff that you would expect for a good security kind of solution is available within the Microsoft 365 E3 product. But look at better, and that's taking another layer on top of that. So, either the Microsoft 365 security kind of product itself, or Microsoft 365 compliance standalone bolt-on. And what this does is it brings the E5 capabilities of M365 security and M365 compliance and allows you to use them. So, things like, being able to configure more advanced auto labeling, or being able to apply Defender for cloud apps, which is one of my favorite products, which I'm pretty sure I say every time. Or being able to use the more comprehensive Defender tools that are out there as part of the kind of wider package. So again, you can start with M365 E3 and then layer on what you need to build up your model towards best. And then if we look at best there, so using M365 E5 security gives you all the tools that you require to meet the best functionality. And that's, again, talking about the things that I've discussed there. So that enables the full version of Defender for cloud apps. It enables the use of Defender for identity, which again brings a lot of that anomalous behavior analytics and alerting to on-premise Active Directory. So a great kind of sensor tool that plugs into a cloud service, which just works so well in protecting your organization, especially in a hybrid scenario. So lots of kind of really good things that you can do with that product set. Defender for endpoint as well, which is great because it's a way of protecting your devices or your endpoints by providing a kind of onboarding experience into the cloud service. And then it gives you life cycles, lifespan of devices, and gives you the ability to kind of monitor and alert, and all aligned with this baseline that you've built up when devices are onboarded into your service. So great kind of solutions there that really direct you towards best. But then obviously we add our little element on here, which is awesome. And this is where we talk about Microsoft 365 E5. And it's expensive, it is, but I think the capabilities of the product nowadays make it so much worthwhile in purchasing the product, just simply because of all the Defender elements that you get and all the capabilities that you get on top of that. If you're continuously, getting guest users into your organization, when they're in your organization, they're going to be protected by the same capabilities that you're implementing as part of E5. So it's giving you that full protection there across everyone that comes into your organization to collaborate. So great tools there, and we'll talk about some of them when we go through the demonstration. And just to point out, during next month's session, we'll be taking a real deep dive into a lot of the E5 capabilities, especially the Defender suite. So many toys to play with, and it's all about configuring these things with the baseline as per normal, but then layering your own custom requirements over the top of that, and that's something that will kind of help you achieve kind of next month during the session. It's probably worthwhile noting I'll be joined by my colleague Stuart Thompson next month, so we'll get a full view over both M365 and into Azure as well. So kind of really worthwhile session to join in. Excellent. So let's step out of the slides here. What we'll do is we'll just kind of go through a few things that make up the Zero Trust model. So if we're talking about identities, devices, then it's one of the things that we should discuss is conditional access. And conditional access is a capability that is unlocked as part of Azure Active Directory Premium 1, but then adds further capabilities with Azure AD Premium 2. So M365 E3 gives you Azure Active Directory Premium 1. And you can even purchase P2 as a bolt-on or as part of one of the other products that we mentioned in the last kind of slide. So one of the kind of key things to use conditional access for initially is for multi-factor authentication. So I mean, if I look at the kind of baseline policy I've created here, we can see here that I'm applying it to all users in my organization, apart from maybe some service accounts or the break glass account that I have configured in here as well. For those who are not aware, a break glass account is a cloud-only account that you protect with a very long generated password that is only used for exemption. So you exempt this from a lot of your conditional access policies and any policies that could potentially lock someone out of an organization. And it gives you that ability to kind of use that account should you find yourself in that scenario, which does seem to be quite common nowadays. So having a break glass strategy or an account is definitely key to ensuring that you don't get locked out. So you can see here, I mean, it's a very simple configuration for applying MFA. You can see here that I'm applying it to all users apart from the break glass, applying to all my cloud apps, so that's all of my Microsoft apps and the third-party apps that are being used within the organization, or anything that's front-ended by Azure Active Directory. And then what I'm doing is I'm granting access to those services, but I'm requiring that multi-factor authentication is required on that. If they've not used MFA before, then generally they'll get a process they need to go through to either set up their mobile telephone as the second factor, or the mobile application as the second factor for authentication. Such a seamless thing nowadays. Used to be quite painful. It's not now. So, it's key to get this applied to your administrative users, but it's also important to think about your standard users within the organization as well. We try and encourage a lot of the organisations that we work with to apply MFA across the board. Adds extra layer of security across your identity, and really important for the zero trust model to ensure that you are as protected as you can be when people are signing in to the organisation. And there are other kind of things that you can do here. If you're using Endpoint Manager, which I'll touch on a little bit later, requiring that the device is compliant with an Endpoint Manager before it can come in and authenticate is a key one to start thinking about. So the compliance when it comes to the device is all about, does it have the right password policy applied to it? Does it have an antivirus software applied, and is it up to date? Lots of things like that. You can even go down the route of creating a compliance policy that is dependent on the version of operating system that they have. So whether that's Windows 10, Windows 11, like I've got here, or mobile operating systems like Android or iOS, you can define a kind of base level that they need to be at before they can consume your services. So a great kind of way of managing access to your resources. Just needs, the only guidance I would generally give around that is think about the configuration prior to implementing it. Always test, always verify before you roll it out to the organisation, just to ensure you're not making it a hindrance over a security capability. So it's quite important to note. Other things we can use conditional access for, and I definitely encourage people to do this, is if you move purely to authenticating with Azure Active Directory, having the capability to reset passwords is important, and self-service password reset is one of those tools that really kind of plays into that security model and into the zero trust model. And what you can do with conditional access is you can share security details between MFA and SSPR. And what that enables you to do is once someone registers for one of those tools, then they don't need to register for the other because it automatically shares that information with it. Great way of kind of managing the registration requirements in there, but it's definitely something that's worthwhile and something that should be implemented. So definitely think about that. Other things, and one of the kind of great things about conditional access is the ability to control where people are coming from, so locations. So, we've all seen it, attacks from, Russia or, other places. Ukraine's a big kind of question mark at the moment as well. So it's all about ensuring that you are locking down where your organisation can log in from. So the way that we could do that is by creating named locations. So you can do countries location here. You'll see there's a large number of countries here that we can select from. Now, generally, we find a lot of our organisations will create a new named location. Let's call this an example. And yeah, we'll leave that as it is, and then we'll select all. But then what we'll do is we'll remove the ones that we know that our organisation will be coming from. So places like United Kingdom, generally United States as well. Although what I would recommend with the United States is that if you are disabling or allowing access from the United States, you monitor your logs, monitor your audit logs to ensure that people aren't trying to access or failing to access your resources. And there's alerts that you can configure for that, as part of, good, better, best, to ensure that you're aware of that, and you can build kind of another custom location that has kind of IP addresses that are kind of trying to kind of get into your organisation with kind of bad intent. But generally, we'd untick the ones that we know that we need to communicate with, Isle of Man, kind of Ireland, that kind of thing, or any ones that you have offices in. You could easily untick it from here so that you're allowing that. But the important thing is that you're blocking access from the countries that are generally the instigators of attacks. And then what that will do is if someone's trying to connect in from that location, they'll just be denied. Yep, they won't be able to access that service. Same scenario if someone goes off to Spain on holiday or something along those lines, then what you can do is you can find out what the public IP address, you can create a new name location, and you can exempt that from the policy. So lots of ways you can manage that. But one that I find just works really well, and it really conforms to the zero trust model, because you're only trusting the locations that you trust. Yeah, the locations that you work from, that you communicate with. So definitely worthwhile doing, and one of those things that is quite easy to achieve with conditional access. So yeah, so that's conditional access. What I would recommend is, we've got some guidance around this that we can share with any interested organisations, standard policies that you can create, and kind of great methodologies for ensuring that you're protecting yourselves better. One of the key integrations that works superbly well is Defender for cloud apps and conditional access app control. It's one of these functionalities where it's session based. So if someone is working in a Teams client on their device, but they're working in your tenant, then you can do things like blocking copy paste, blocking downloads, things like that, which allow you to control what they can do within that session as well. So taking it to the next level, but that requires the full kind of version of Defender for cloud apps, which is generally in the kind of E5 security suite, or in its kind of cheapest terms, Azure Active Directory P2 gives you some of the capabilities that you need for that. So that's conditional access. So still talking about identity and devices and the attack vectors that we discussed. Another tool that is fantastic is, especially for privileged accounts, is privileged identity management. And this is a solution that protects your administrative roles within the organization. A lot of mistake the organizations will make is they'll have named global administrators across their tenant. So that is the full Buna capabilities. They'll be able to go in and delete things, create things, and all that kind of big stuff. But bringing a solution like PIM as part of an IAM into your organization is going to instantly give you the ability to protect that capability or protect that sort of that kind of access to your services. And the way that it does it is, you have numerous or all of your Azure Active Directory roles here. If I just jump into roles, and you can see that we've got all of the roles here. We've got global administrator, we've got global reader, we've got exchange service admin, exchange administrator, we've got security admin. So all of the really big roles can be protected by this. And what you would do is generally configure the settings for the role. So if I select global administrator, for example, and then if I look at the settings here, then what you can do is you can define the settings per role. So how long a person can have that role active for, whether it requires justification, whether it requires approval before they kind of deactivate it. So a good way of managing just-in-time access. Yep. So you're only providing that administrative account to a standard user account when they're required to use it for something they need to achieve. Yeah. And a great way of building out the justifications there is by having that information in PIM is going to let you know what they're trying to achieve as part of that. But what you can also do is do an audit review of what they kind of carried out while they were under that assignment. And it gives you that great way of managing what people are doing with it, that they really require it. Should it maybe lessen the time period that people can activate it for. Lots of kind of things can be assigned as part of it, can be factored out as part of that. So the general idea is that you would assign out or mark, you know, your Exchange administrators as eligible for the Exchange administrator role. And what they would then be able to do is to activate that role when they require it. So generally, you know, you would have maybe for the more global ones like global admin, Exchange admin, SharePoint admin, Teams admin, all of the top level administrative roles, you would have them with an approval process. So that when someone's requesting that they activate that role, it gets sent off for approval. You know, maybe they've given a bit of justification around that, so that they can only activate that when it's been deemed, you know, an applicable period to activate that role. Because most often than not, a lot of organisations don't understand or don't quite implement Global Reader well enough. Global Reader gives you the capability to view the tenant information. So if you have anyone that needs to manage the tenant configuration, then Global Reader is enough to view what they need to do and plan out what they need to do. But then they will only need that role for a very short period of time to actually carry out what they need to achieve. So using something like PIM, an access management or identity management solution, is going to save you a lot of time. And hurt, a lot of hurt. You know, planning is key to this though. You know, having owners for each of the roles is important. So understanding that the approvers for those roles need to understand what the people that are trying to activate the role are trying to achieve. So having someone with the expertise to manage that role is important, and that's what happens during the planning phase before you implement a solution like PIM. You can also use group role assignment as well, so you can have a dynamic group that picks up everyone from a particular OU or from a particular department or team, and automatically assigns them to this group. And then that group has a role assigned to it, which is maybe global admin for you know, more kind of global administration. And what that does is that as soon as they are added into the Azure Active Directory organization, and they're assigned that to the same team as the group is picking up the dynamic values from, then what you can do is they will automatically be eligible for activating this role with the same rules and policies and configurations that you set within here. So they can activate it, but they need to give justification, but they also need to kind of approve that or get it approved. But at the same time, they're already getting Global Reader at the same point. So, and that's an always active role for this particular group. So they're still able to kind of view and kind of assess the kind of tenant. But again, you're limiting the ability to change things to that period of time. So what's well known as just-in-time access. You know, so adding extra auditing onto it as well to ensure that, you know, you're well aware of what people are doing with the power of it that they've been given. You know, as kind of, I suppose, you know, Marvel would say, it's you know, great power, great responsibility. So it's all about ensuring that, you know, you are aware of what people are doing with the roles that they've been defined or aligned with, and this tool and other tools like it will give you that capability. So a great thing, and Azure Active Directory P2 is what unlocks PIM, but then it's all about the planning. Planning is key. Excellent. So let's jump into Microsoft Defender for cloud apps, or in fact, no, Defender first, in fact, or we're going to cloud apps. We're going to cloud apps. So this used to be Cloud App Security, but it's now changed to Defender for Cloud Apps. One of my favourite solutions. I think it's such a great thing, even from a basic discovery function. So Microsoft 365 E3 will give you the discovery element. Some variations of Office 365 will give you access to the discovery element. And what that allows you to do is to play about with some of the discovery functionality here. So Cloud App Catalog is a great thing. So this is a catalogue of, it's increased again since last time I checked, but over 30,000 cloud apps. And all of these cloud apps have been assessed and they're being monitored by Microsoft endpoints, Microsoft IOCs, all of that kind of good stuff to validate those cloud apps and give them a risk score. So you can see here, a lot of the Microsoft solutions, 10 out of 10, maybe they're biased, but 10 out of 10. But they also validate that by, if we click on SharePoint here, by telling you why it's a 10 out of 10. So here we've got some general information about the application, what type of application it is, what domains it tends to communicate with, who it's hosted by, where it's hosted, does it have a disaster recovery plan, all really valuable information. But then you've also got security and compliance specific analysis here as well. So what it kind of aligns to, does it enforce multi-factor authentication? Does it have IP address restrictions? Does it allow for file sharing? All of these things have been assessed, and you can individually look at these items to see where this particular cloud app stands in that kind of that picture, that grander picture. And a lot of the kind of assessments can be used here as well, just to kind of view those. It also gives you compliance output as well, so what they are compliant with, and being Microsoft, they have all of these kind of requirements already aligned. Things like SOC 1, 2, and 3, and the various kind of ISOs and various things. And then even legal, what they're conforming to as part of that. So giving you the ability to ensure that GDPR compliance is not going to be a problem as part of that kind of solution. And you can think there's 30,000 applications out there that have all had this assessment. So if you're thinking about introducing a cloud app into the organization, you can use Defender for Cloud Apps to assess it and give you a good picture. This is quite a good area here, the latest breach. And generally, anything with a latest breach, maybe within the last 2 years, is probably something to be concerned about. But a great kind of way of kind of managing cloud apps within the organization. As things move more and more to the cloud, there's a lot more to think about around your cloud apps. So a great starting point. And as I say, this is available in the discovery element. But what's also available is the ability to discover what cloud apps are being used within the organization. So giving you kind of good insight into the bigger catalog, but then what's actually being used in your organization. How's this being used? How many downloads are coming down this? How much upload traffic is there being? So lots of really powerful things there. With the wider kind of Defender for Cloud Apps license, you have a lot more around the control and investigate. So your investigate will give you activity logs, it'll give you file logs, what people are doing with files across these cloud apps, what users and accounts are doing, what devices are doing, what OAuth apps there are out there, and all that kind of good stuff. So really kind of powerful things there. But then you also have the ability to create and use policies. And they give you a lot of templates. It can vary between organization depending on how many you've got deployed. Things for like new cloud apps that are discovered within your environment. Dodgy sign-in. Someone's trying to sign in from a browser that's not a known browser or one that's been utilised. Maybe they're trying to log in from the command shell somewhere. It's all logged. It's all alerted. Things like anomalous behaviour alerting will play beautifully into Defender for Cloud Apps. So in general, I mean, there's lots of kind of alerts and policies that I could talk about there, but there's so much to this product that it is such a valuable asset for any SOC, any security implementation, and really as a backbone for the Zero Trust model, because it's giving you that analytics and visibility across all of that. But more importantly, the important, immediate alerting to the kind of the really suspect things that are happening out in your organization. So a great tool, and one that even if you look at from a discovery element, you may already be licensed for that. So jump on to portal.cloudappsecurity.com, log into it, connect your apps in here, so Office 365, Azure, and any other apps you want to connect in there. Give it about 24 hours to 40 hours to start pulling through some data. And then you'll be able to have a look through the Cloud App Security build a discovery report as well, to be able to assess what's being used out there. So definitely a good thing to think about. So very briefly, I'll talk about security and compliance. So security itself, you can see here I've got full E5, so I've got a lot of things that I can look at in the Defender portal. The standard Defender portal from M365 E3 gives you a lot of capabilities. One of the key things to think about, one that's aligning more and more with the Zero Trust model, is Secure Score. So this is a list of improvement actions or a list of elements that you should be configuring within your tenant, and it pretty much gives you a score aligned with each of these things. So things like applying MFA gives you a big jump in your score, but then other things like safe links, for rewriting links that are shared within Teams and in kind of Outlook and things like that, just to ensure that they are genuine links, they're not malware links, and only delivering that to the mail or to the Teams message or Teams channel once it's fully been tested. Safe attachments works exactly the same. It detonates the attachment in the sandbox environment before it makes it available to where you've shared that with. And all these things take seconds to kind of to run through. So it's I won't step through compliance too much, but just to underline the importance of the part of the Zero Trust model that looks at your apps and data. So applying information protection to label, classify and protect your documents. Data loss prevention as well to protect your sensitive information from leaving the organization. But then also compliance manager as well. So if you conform to a particular assessment that you need to conform to, ISO or NIST or something along those lines, then what you can do is you can build an assessment or deploy one of the assessment templates, which will then give you improvement actions that you need to do aligned with that accreditation. Yeah. So some really kind of good stuff that you can do there out of the box with a compliance manager. So kind of really fun stuff. But just in the interest of time, let's jump back to the slides. So hopefully everyone can still hear and see me.
Yep.
Cool. Good. So let's just go back into the slides and we'll just finish off today's session. So regular assessment, really important. So once you've got the model in place, or once you've got your variation of the model in place, regularly assessing that, evolving with the way that things are changing is really important. Running regular health checks. So I mean, if this is a journey that you're really early on with, getting someone like us to come in and do a security health check for you. It's going to give you the kind of the recommendations, the mitigation, the things that you need to kind of know to start evolving and moving to that modern model. So it's really important that there's something that you undertake, but also something that you get help when you need it, pretty much. So it's all about keeping on top of service changes, ensuring as the landscape evolves, which it always does, that the services evolve in parallel. So, your model evolves with that. So applying something like the Zero Trust model allows you to do that quite seamlessly. It's a great thing. It's fantastic. Understanding your security posture from the outset, understanding what the roadmap is to where you want to be with that, or where you want to baseline it. Yeah, so it's important to understand that. And then most importantly, evolving with the Zero Trust model. More and more solutions are becoming more accessible to lower license categories. So it's all about ensuring that you understand the tools that you have available to you, how your current zero trust model looks, but then as part of, you know, a kind of ongoing roadmap, you know, you're introducing solutions to that that you're either purchasing or have been added to the licenses that you already have. So committing to a model and evolving with it is really key as part of that. Cool, and then just the kind of final kind of slide from me. It's all about the ongoing journey. I did do air quotes there, nobody's seen that, but I did air quotes, the ongoing journey. It's really important to understand where you're going, where you want to be, how you collaborate, how you work as an organisation. That's all going to play into how you evolve and how you change over time. There's lots of things to think about here. Things like horizon scanning, what's coming new down the pipeline. Roadmap analysis. So what does your current roadmap look like for 5 years? What does your current roadmap look like for 10 years? How does the security model align with that? And it's really key to understand that. That's why we call it analysis. All about understanding what that roadmap looks like and how you get there. Existing product changes, really important. There's lots of things that have been added to Teams, lots of things being added to Microsoft 365 Cloud, full stop. So understanding what they are and how you need to change as an organisation to ensure your model is consistent is key to that. Current state assessment, and I noted that in the last kind of the last slide. Really important to understand where you currently are with security, with you know, the kind of zero trust model is one of the models that we've talked about quite consistently. You know, understanding where you align with that currently, and then understanding where you need to get to feel a bit more ensured that your security is consistent. Also talking about partners engaging and helping you with this, or you know, services like ourselves, getting recommendations around your own organisation, aligned with your roadmap and all that kind of good stuff. So it's key to kind of get that assistance. And just ensuring that you're always ahead of the curve. It changes all the time. I mean, I've mentioned that on numerous occasions today. But it's all ensuring that you're ready to evolve and kind of get ahead of that. You know, and aligning something like the zero trust model will ensure that you're already there from the outset. But then it's all about just thinking about the new things that are coming down the pipeline. So services that we offer from CompanyNet, Evergreen IT service. This is where we do a lot of the horizon scanning. You know, we help you see what's coming down from Microsoft, not just with Microsoft 365, but, you know, stepping into things like Azure. You know, we're letting you know what's coming, how you need to change, and it's always custom to your organization. So the more we know about your organization, the more we can align that with the recommendations. So what we recommend that you would do with a particular element or a particular setting change that's coming down from the cloud. Technical insurance service. This is something that we offer for a lot of our customers, and this is all about augmenting your team to extend it into CompanyNet resources. You know, people like myself with our broad M365 knowledge, security knowledge, all the way back to kind of VMware, virtualization, Hyper-V. You know, we're augmenting your team. We're having regular stand-ups to talk about, you know, projects that you've got ongoing. We're assisting you with guidance and kind of sometimes with rolling up the sleeves and getting involved in a lot of these things. So the value of that sort of service is kind of second to none. It's such a valuable service that we offer, and something that I think our customers get great value from. And then health checks as well. It's all about ensuring, you know, I talked about the security health check. You know, we're talking then about M365 health check, Azure health check. It's all about ensuring that you're using Azure in the best kind of way. You're not paying too much for things when you don't need to, and things like that. But then more under the hood, it's all about ensuring that you're configured with security in mind. Yeah, so you're protected and you can give these services to your customers without too much concern, or your user base without too much concern. So yeah, just jump along to the website. I'm sure Tarasa will mention a few things in a second. But get in touch. You know, we're here to help you. That's the important key message that we're trying to make here. And I'll hand back to Taras.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. Thanks very much, Dave.
My terrible connection.
Well, we got you back, so that's great. We've got a few questions in from, well, all from Marco actually. Well, one of them I think you've just covered, which was Marco asked, how can you properly manage the weekly digest from Microsoft within an enterprise? How do companies handle the weekly changes being announced every week? So I think from our point of view, you can either have someone in place in your company who's monitoring those changes, and it can be a full-time role because there's a lot of changes coming out, or you can partner with someone like CompanyNet who we will monitor it on your behalf, and that's basically what our evergreen service is. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Dave.
No, I think that is it. I mean, it's all about ensuring that you have someone in the organisation that's defined for that role, because there is so much change happening. But it's over different verticals, you know, security, compliance, Teams, you know, SharePoint. But we cover all of that within the Evergreen IT, so it's something that we can do as a service for you. But it's something that, you know, as long as you have that functionality or that person internally, it's key.
Great. So going back to the actual presentation today, Marco again pointed out that implementing privileged access groups, PAG, lets you extend PIM not just to AAD roles, but to Azure Active Directory groups as well, which is a new feature that's in public preview. But he just thought it was worth mentioning.
Absolutely, I think that's great. Can you come along to next month and present on that? That'd be fantastic. I don't have to do anything then, in case I drop off. That's a great thing.
Right. So another question here, which is, sorry, let me just find it. When should MFA be triggered? Should it only be at logon times and for critical applications? Everyone talks about MFA, but you never hear how it should actually be implemented in terms of scope.
Yeah, so authentication. Yeah, so purely when someone's signing in to the portal or signing into an application, it should always prompt for MFA. To ensure that the token that they receive then from that authentication request allows them the ability to kind of interact with that application or that service for the length of time that they need to. And one of the great things about MFA is you can have the token life to be as long or as short as you need it to be. So the more critical sensitive applications, you can have a really short kind of lifespan to the token. So, within 24 hours, they need to re-authenticate with the token. Generally, things like Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise and things like that, you authenticate once and you've got that token for a long amount of time, because it just works, it aids collaboration and doesn't hinder on anything else. But the key thing is managing that on an app by app basis. So general login MFA, but then app specifics need to be worked to ensure that you're only deriving your token for the amount of period that you need to protect that application.
Grant, thanks for that. So I think I'm very conscious we've gone over time now, so I think we'll just wrap it up there. I don't know if you can move it on to the next slide, Dave.
I can indeed. I'm still here.
Wonderful. Yeah, so thanks very much for your questions, your participation today. We've got a sort of a follow-up to this webinar next month with a more practical one. So as Dave mentioned, that'll be looking more at the workloads and the tool sets that I think in particular E5 can provide. But of course, we'll be covering E3 as well, so we're covering all bases. So that's our next webinar. If we move on to the next slide, please, as they say. Yeah, you can see the URL there. If you go to that, we've got our next webinars up until June listed there, So there's plenty of things to register for in terms of Microsoft 365 adoption. I think is the one after March's one. So do have a look there. We've also got some more focused workshops that we're partnering with Microsoft on. There are a few restrictions around those, so I think you need to have 1,000 active users or something like that. So if that's you, if you're a larger enterprise, then do check that out. So there's a couple of options there for Microsoft Viva Teams type things. So yeah, do have a look at that page anyway and see what's there for you. But as I say, we've got webinars open to everybody up until June. So that's all there. Other than that, just like to say thanks to Dave and thanks to all of you for attending. And we really hope to see you at a future event. I will be in touch in the next couple of days with a recording of today's event as well, so you can watch it back or share it with colleagues and peers as you wish. Thanks very much.